I tell people the opposite advice all the time because now people come to me and ask. And I always say, do the stuff that makes you passionate. Write in a million different directions. Honestly, especially now with the industry changing. Look at what you're doing with this podcast. Like you're doing things that you love, different ways to tell stories and bring stories to life.
All right, this is the Story Series podcast where we tell the stories behind the people. Elise Allen, welcome.
Well, thanks so much, Brandon.
I'm thrilled that you're here. For those who don't know, I like to just read a brief introduction as to who you are. So you are an Emmy-nominated writer and New York Times bestselling author. Some of your credits in the kids space include everything from Princess Power, which you created, The Lion Guard, Dinosaur Train, Tots, which we worked on together, to Gabby Duran and the Unsittables, which is a series based on the wildly successful book series that you co-authored. But all that is really just the tip of the iceberg, and so I'm excited to get into this with you. So once again, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
So I like to go back and connect the dots a little bit and just talk about origin stories. And so if you could, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Philadelphia. Hence Philadelphia Eagles.
Nice.
Proudly on my chest. We are 2-0 right now and the reigning Super Bowl champions.
Oh, okay.
That's really the most important takeaway from the entire podcast.
Yes. And so, in addition to sports, were you were you always creatively inclined? Were you what kind of kid were you? Athletic? Like how did you get that creative bug?
I was never an athletic kid, even remotely. No, I was athletically sitting on the couch and stealing tasty cakes from the school store. Those were my sports. Yes, I was always a crazy creative kid. I would create shows. Once I wrote this is just bouncing around, I wrote a nonfiction book. My first published book was a nonfiction book called The Traveling Marathoner. And it was a photo's guide for people who travel for marathons because there was a whole happening. It still happens now, but it got really, really big as I was writing this, where people would run a marathon and they'd create a whole vacation out of it.
Whoa.
So it became this way. And that's what I did because I have done 20 marathons, but I'm very, very slow, like would never qualify for Boston, crazy slow. So it was more about finishing and going on the journey to whatever city it was. And when you do a marathon, you get to see 26.2 miles of this place. So I wrote this travel guide and I got to do a publicity tour for it. So it was all little channels, smaller market news channels. And the problem was I would do a lot of interviews like this, but I move around like a Muppet all over the place. So I kept darting out of frame and like moving my hands through the picture constantly. So that's why I'm very aware of this.
No, you're great. You have room to gesture and move around.
Excellent.
But just to stay on that, so you said that was your first published book?
Yeah.
Was that not? I love that because I think I knew that about you as a runner because I did 2 marathons.
Oh, which ones did you do?
2 LA marathons.
Was it Stadium to the Sea route? Because they have a new route now.
Yes. It was, the first one was the week before COVID. So that was 2020. So we did from Dodger Stadium to Santa Monica. So we finished at the beach. And then I did it 2 years later and we did that wraparound where we finished in Century City.
Not as much fun.
And but still, but I did have that bug as a runner, and I'm not fast at all.
Right.
Very slow, but it's I love it. I love it.
Do Disney races? Because you're a Disney guy now.
Yeah, no. I've seen some people post about that, and
they're so fun.
Are they?
So first of all, I'm a legacy for the Disneyland Half Marathon, which means I've done every single one, except for the years that they stopped doing it. Now they're going to take another pause for a couple of years. I think there's something going on between Disney and the city of Anaheim. I'm not sure what it is.
Okay.
But they used to do 4 a year, 4 half marathons a year, and one of them was a Star Wars marathon. Whoa. Fantastic. There was a whole mile lined with Star Wars reenactors, and their costumes were even better than the official Disney costumes. It was incredible to see.
Is this through the park, through Anaheim?
You start at the park and then through Anaheim. Yeah.
Whoa.
And then they used to do, for the regular Disneyland half marathon, they used to run you down to Angel Stadium and you could round the bases and you would see yourself on the big Fanavision.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I got to check that out.
And then at Disney World, because it's so much bigger, they have the full marathon. Like Disneyland is always a half. Disney World, they do the full.
Huh.
And if you're really, really crazy, you can, on consecutive days, do a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon.
Consecutive days.
Consecutive days, yeah. That is the dopey challenge, because you got to be seriously dopey to do that.
I love that.
I've done the goofy challenge 3 times, where it's just the half marathon on Saturday and the full marathon on Sunday.
I love that. So, okay, so you said that you're not athletic, but clearly there is some of that in you. When did you start running?
I started running in 2020. A friend of mine saw that AIDS Project Los Angeles was doing a program where you would raise money for AIDS Project Los Angeles, and they would fly you to the Chicago Marathon and put you up in a hotel. They would train you the whole way and fly you there, put you up in a hotel, and you all run the marathon together, and you feel really good because they're helping you do something exciting for yourself, and you're helping AIDS Project Los Angeles. So it's good for everybody. My friend who told me about that was so excited and then quit before day 1. I kept going and wound up meeting up with these amazing women, and we did the whole thing together, and we went to Chicago together and stayed together the entire race, which is rare. Usually when you're running, you have different paces and you want, or somebody gets tired. We stayed the whole way together, and it just felt fantastic. Plus, we were doing it for a great cause, and I felt like that's all I need. That was the pinnacle. And it was so out of my wheelhouse that I broke out, not just in sweat, but in rock salt. My face had rock salt all over it. I didn't even know that was a thing.
How funny. So 2020, that was the year that I started running.
Oh.
Which is really funny. So I'm curious, what in your life got you to say yes to something that you probably never would have dreamed of doing before, right?
I have a tendency to say yes to things that I had never dreamed of doing before. Like I can be, I would say chicken shit, but I don't know if this is a cursing podcast.
You can, totally can.
Okay. I can be absolutely chicken shit.
We can't curse in our work and in the kids space, but we can curse here.
At least not on screen.
Right, not on screen. Yeah.
But so even though I can be really, really super scared, most of the time I will try something and do something and try to get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So, and this seemed fun. It seemed like a doable challenge. In fact, and I now believe it's such a doable challenge that in the book that I wrote, the nonfiction thing, my favorite part was in every chapter, there was a section called Anyone Can Run a Marathon. And I would find somebody who was, for whatever reason, unlikely to be a marathoner and tell their story about why they started, why they do it. There was a woman named Gladys Burrell who, sadly has to be gone by now because she was in her late 90s when I was writing this, mid 90s. And she had done the Honolulu Marathon 10 years in a row. She started in her 80s. She started late and just got excited about the idea. She would walk it, but she would walk it every single year. And everybody knew that she was there, and she was fast enough that they didn't close the race around her, but this was her thing. And she came to it late in life and just wanted to take on a new challenge.
Huh. So you got the bug at that point after 2020. That was like, okay.
Well, I was done. I did the one and I thought this is the pinnacle experience, finished with my friends, took the trip, had the vacation. It was marvelous. I never need to do it again. And I told people about it. And so maybe later that year I was at the dentist, and he was elbow deep in my mouth doing God knows what, and said, "Hey, I know you're a marathoner." Which one was he? I think the first one he wanted to do was LA. The LA Marathon is coming up. Do you want to do it with me? And when somebody has his arms that deep in your mouth, what are you going to say?
Yeah.
The only thing I could say was, which I think he interpreted as, yes, I would absolutely love to. So we started training together. And what was great about it is I became really, really good friends with my dentist.
That's a good friendship.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Right? Going back when you were growing up in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Before you started running, you were always creatively inclined.
I was a performer. I was a performer pretty much from birth. But I would write shows too. And I was actually writing more than I was performing. But writing, even though it was what I did, I never thought of that as, I want to be a writer. That didn't seem like a possible career.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you see actors all the time in the world. You feel like, I can do that. That's clearly my path. So yeah, I would write up little shows for my grandparents who were so good about sitting and watching. And I would give roles to my cousin and to my sister. And we would come and we would do shows in the basement and perform them. And I remember my proudest moment in 4th grade. I wrote a short story about my cat as a hard-boiled detective.
Ooh.
Yes, very dark story. And her sidekick, she was a Persian cat. Her sidekick was this annoying Jack Russell Terrier who was always bouncing around and really excited. That was not Seuss's vibe, so they didn't hit it off. Story. And it got it, you know how in grade school they'll sometimes publish kids' works at the end, and mine made it to the published book. So I was super proud of that, so much so that I wrote a sequel for the next one, and that got in. But I still, like, it sticks with me, but I never thought, oh, I'm going to be a writer. Like, it never struck me as something I could do.
And when you were in high school looking ahead, what was your plan? Or did you even have a plan?
Theater. I was going to be a theater major.
Theater.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was hoping that before I graduated high school, I would somehow end up on the TV show Fame so that I could just be famous and do the acting thing without having to work for it.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, that didn't happen.
Right.
So, yeah, I wanted to go to a school with a great theater program, be a theater major, move to New York, and do the acting thing. And I was thinking in terms of stage, even though I always loved television.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, so plans changed along the way, but that in high school, that's where my head was.
And where did you end up going to college?
Connecticut College.
Connecticut College, studying theater?
Yeah.
And what did that do for you personally?
It was a great theater program. It also offered, I would say what it really did. I mean, the theater program was great. I did some terrific plays. I really liked my professors. But what it really did was I found my people and got to do some really unique creative things. The best thing that I did in college creatively, one of my really close friends from college, her name is Debbie McMahon. She does theater out here. She's been written up in LA Weekly. She's amazing, a visionary. But she and I had this idea. We wanted to do, at the time, mystery parties were really big, but we were very annoyed by them because it was just in a box. Like, that's not exciting. What we were interested in, and role-playing games and LARPing have become their own things now. But then it was really just this sense of we want to create a different reality where every single person steps into this reality. They already have a character. They already have a backstory. They already have motivations. They're not just reading off cards. They get to make their own choices in like a giant improv game. We just have to give them enough information that they can play. And then we work behind the scenes, subtly crafting events to happen and instigating murders that they are actually reenacted. Like, the way it works is, let's say you and I are at this party, we're playing characters, we're chatting, and well, now I've cast myself in two roles because I'm about to say then I come up to you. So let's say it's you and Travis are at this party and you're talking, you're in character, everything's fine, and then we pull you aside and you get a little card and I'm like, Brandon, okay, so you're going to go into the bathroom and there's a retractable knife under the sink. So you're going to hold on to that retractable knife, and the next person who comes in, stab them, leave them for dead, come back to the party. Nobody will know. And by the way, there's so much going on at these events that nobody notices. I've pulled you aside because a lot of people are getting little cards just to incite random things along the way. Like, it's constantly happening and everybody is so involved in what they're doing. It's not like everybody sees, Brandon just got a card. Clearly he's going to kill somebody. No, nobody notices.
Wow.
So you just mosey your way into the bathroom, and then suddenly Travis comes in a little bit later and you're like, dude, sorry, I got this retractable. And you just stab him.
Sorry,
he falls down dead. And he's already gotten a card saying, sorry, Travis, you're going to die. This is going to happen. You're going to go into the bathroom. You're going to get stabbed. Stay there. We'll take care of you. Don't worry. But stay there dead for a while. So you stab him. You come back, you slip into the party. Again, nobody's noticing because they're busy doing their stuff. They've all got all kinds of different motivations and stuff going on at the party. There's screaming. People are strutting down a runway to show off their outfits. There's accusations flying. Torrid affairs happening. Everything's going on. So nobody notices that you've slipped back into the party like nothing's going on. And then we send somebody, go into the bathroom. If you see anything weird, let us all know. So, all right, they slip into the bathroom, and every single time it's, oh my God, there's a dead body here! Screaming. Everybody runs in. They're looking at Travis's body. Travis is listening to this podcast like, how did I get involved in this? What? But yes, they're screaming, freaking out because there's a dead body, and then the party continues. And we pick up Travis and tell him, now here's another character you can be. You can go back to the party. It's all okay.
Wow. And are people watching this too? Or
No,
is it purely like participatory?
It's purely participatory.
Wow.
So the beauty is you can come, and if you feel like, I'm not going to be comfortable. By the way, everybody's comfortable. We have done these parties. Yes, we've done them for people who fancy themselves actors or in the entertainment. I say fancy themselves. There are actual actors. Right. But people who they feel good about acting. They're very outgoing. But we've also done it for accountants who are nervous about the idea of acting. We've done it for 12-year-olds. We did. We were once hired to go to Delaware and do a Star Wars themed bar mitzvah. And this was before the prequels came out. And this kid was really into Star Wars and wanted it specifically set between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. And it had to be canon. Like everything going on had to fit the canon, but it couldn't change the canon. So obviously, like Luke Skywalker couldn't be there. He might do something that's not canon. So we had to create this whole Star Wars world that fit right there. And it was amazing. But you can come in and just say, I want to be a minor character. And we'll give you just an identity. And then you don't have to do anything. But people usually wind up playing along and doing stuff.
It seems like they could warm up a little bit, and there's some guardrails, so they're not completely, what do I do? It's a little bit guided. There's some people that are like, I don't really know. That's not really my thing.
Like, I'm that person. Improv scares the crap out of me. I was just at an event the other day where I was called on to play an improv game, and it's totally low key and you can't go wrong. And I went wrong. Like my mind went blank. I could think of nothing.
Sure.
Like I have nothing to say. I'm just going to stand here.
Right.
This is the worst improv in history. But you don't feel that way at this because we make sure everybody has specific goals. We'll give you an outline of things you want to do.
Is there a name for this?
Yeah, the company's called Dial Us for Murder.
I love that.
And we used to do them a lot, and we're bringing them back. So we're going to have one on December 7th that'll be open to the public, which is going to be really exciting.
I was going to say, in a time now where live events and just people getting together are coming back, whether it's board game night, whether it's tabletop games like D&D, these live experiences are really gaining in popularity. And I'm like, you used to do this. There has to be an appetite for this now, but it sounds like
absolutely there
I
is.
love
and again,
that.
It goes back to that sense of community.
Right.
Everybody's coming together and doing something, and it also helps shed inhibitions. You can be somebody who's generally scared of, I wonder if people are going to like me, and you don't have to worry about that because you're not being yourself.
Yeah.
You have the shield of, I've been told what to do. If somebody doesn't like me, I could just say, they told me to do it. It's not me. It's this character I'm playing and what I've been told to do.
Yeah, and just knowing, jumping ahead to what you've done in your career with working in television, writing novels. Now you're doing, at the time, doing that kind of live theater experience.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
just
been
hearing
all the way through.
Crossing mediums, which is something you seem to always do.
I love that. Yes. It keeps my brain more active. It keeps me happy. It keeps me energized about all the different things that I'm doing. The worst advice I got was I was on a show called, I was an assistant, a writer's assistant on a show called California Dreams. And I really liked the guy who gave me this advice. It just wasn't the right advice for me. And the head writer on that show, he noticed I was doing all kinds of things. Like I was doing the mystery parties a lot back then, and I was writing in different genres. And at that time, I moved to LA. I didn't know anybody. So I sent my resume to literally every TV show and movie in production. There used to be a book. I don't think it exists anymore. There used to be something called the Ross Reports. And that's what it listed. Every single TV show and movie in production.
How funny.
Yeah.
Later on, I got the Hollywood Creative Directory where it listed all the production companies where you would send your scripts to. So it's like that for acting.
Yeah. Well, not even for acting. It was for production jobs. So for acting, you would look at Backstage, same thing you look at now.
Sure. And you sent your resume out to all of them.
Literally everything. And it wasn't for acting jobs then. I knew if I was coming out here, I needed some kind of day job before I became a rich and famous actor. Did you ever see the Muppet movie?
Of course, yeah, sure.
So when Orson Welles says, draw up the standard rich and famous contract,
yes,
that's 100% what I expected to get when I got here to LA.
Why not? Come on.
That's how it works.
I love it, yeah.
So, yeah, while I was waiting for the standard Rich and Famous contract, I knew I wanted to be in television somehow. Like, I grew up such a TV baby, loved everything about it, just wanted to be a part of it. So, sent my resume everywhere. And so I had the first thing on top was about my mystery party company. Dial Us for Murder, and Debbie and I created the logo in crypt font.
Ooh.
So it's this very professional looking resume with giant crypt font at the
Murder,
top.
yeah.
Yes. And nobody called me in except one person who's like, I had to know what this was. And it was a guy named Franco Barrio, who is still a super successful producer and amazing and the nicest guy. And he called me in. And so I sit down to interview with him. He says, well, this show, he was doing Saved by the Bell the college years. He was the producer for Saved by the Bell the college years. It was his first primetime job because he had been producing the Saturday morning show. So he calls me in for the job and he says, this is Saved by the Bell. Clearly you know what that is. I said, I saw commercials once about dolls that were going to the mall. Pretty sure that's what this was. So I got the job, I think because I knew absolutely nothing about it. And honestly, it was the greatest starter job ever. But, and I could tell you about that also, but where I was going with it was at the time, I wanted to act. Everybody there knew I wanted to act. Peter Engelland, it was this guy named Peter Engel who had a whole empire of kids shows. So all the shows, everybody on the different shows kind of knew one another. And there was this guy named Brett Dewey who was one of the writers on California Dreams. And he knew that I was the quirky receptionist who wanted to act. And he just needed a name for an under 5. And he wasn't thinking, we're going to put the quirky receptionist in this role. He's just, I need a name. We'll use the quirky receptionist.
What's an
name.
under 5?
Oh, it's when you're in a live action show, if you have under 5 lines. That's you're an under 5.
Nice. Okay.
So there were literally, it was one line. And he just needed a name. So he wrote it in as Elise. And Franco saw this and said, well, clearly it's written for you. You're going to play the role. It is the worst moment on television ever. I used to show it during author talks because I would start by saying, I'm an author. I thought I would be an actor. Here's why I'm not.
Ooh.
My line was, whoa, that guitar player is hot. And I say it like nobody has ever said those words in the history of communication. Like I'm chewing on them. Whoa, that guitar player is hot. It's awful. It's awful. And I'm doing that. Did you ever watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Sure.
Okay. You know where Pee Wee Herman has his cameo? And it's they're doing the movie within the movie at the end. Okay. And it's James Brolin and Morgan Fairchild, and they're playing Pee Wee and Dottie. And Pee Wee Herman himself is the guy behind the hotel desk, and he keeps looking at the camera. And like,
right.
That was me. I knew my line was coming up, and instead of acting in any way, like, you know, looking at the person and maybe listening and responding, you could see the wheels on my head going, my line's coming up. My line's coming up. It's almost my turn. It's almost my turn. There's the camera and it's all, here, it's my turn. And then kind of still looking at the camera like, ooh, now I'm going to react. Here, can you see me? It's awful. It is awful and kind of wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. How did it feel in the moment? Were you like, oh, I crushed it?
No, I kind of knew this is not what I should be doing, but I was so excited I didn't care.
Right.
And then afterwards, I was so excited because I got to keep my wardrobe, and I was dirt poor. Like this, I was a PA living in LA. So anytime somebody would feed me or clothe me, I was so excited.
That's a good payday.
Yes.
So, but you mentioned on that show you got a piece of advice.
Yeah. So on California Dreams, when I was a writer's assistant on Dreams, this was later.
Oh, yes.
The head writer said, here's the thing that I've noticed. You're all over the place. In order to succeed in this business, you really need to be an arrow. You need to find a lane. You need to stick to it. You need to do just that. And for a while, I thought, oh, maybe I'm really doing everything wrong because I really am trying everything. I'm spreading myself all over and it's really fun, but maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. No, you can't be an arrow. I tell people the opposite advice all the time because now people come to me and ask, and I always say, do the stuff that makes you passionate. Write in a million different directions. Honestly, especially now with the industry changing. Look at what you're doing with this podcast. Like you're doing things that you love, different ways to tell stories and bring stories to life.
Yeah, I love that. Be an arrow. It's like that's such a great line to write. Maybe I should be an arrow. Like
exactly. I'm like, so maybe I'm doing it wrong.
So at that time, you said it caused you to question yourself.
Absolutely it did.
Yeah.
Absolutely it did. Because he had been in this business longer than me,
Sure.
and he was running a show, so clearly he was successful and he knew what he was doing. And I thought, man, I am doing everything wrong. What do I focus on? What would the one thing be?
That piece of advice tried to, I mean, knowing you and just hearing you goes against your nature.
It does.
And very,
It does.
very much. And so, but have you had, because obviously the industry does pigeonhole us, and it's up to us to not believe it.
Right.
So in your career, have you had to convince the other side that you're more than just what they see you?
Yeah, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Gabby Duran, I think, is a great example. I won't have the hubris to say that I'm the reason it got made into a TV show. Nancy Cantor or whoever actually put it on may have found it anyway, but I was working on Lion Guard at the time, and I had the opportunity to talk to Nancy Cantor, who was awesome.
And running Disney Junior at the time?
Yeah. She's amazing. She really knows her stuff, and she's super smart. So I came in with the books and said, I would love to give these to you. I really think they would be great for Disney, and I would love it if you would read them. And from there, they wound, and I don't know if it came from that. She was also good friends with the packager of the books, this woman named Jane Starts, who's also brilliant and really knows her stuff. So probably it happened between the two of them, but I like to think that I had a little part in it.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it can't hurt to have the author say, hey.
Just the synergy of it coming all over.
Yeah.
But as it moved forward, I first absolutely thought, well, I should run this show. I mean, come on. I know the world.
Yeah.
You know my writing. I'm working on Lion Guard right now, and you like my work there. Shouldn't I be running this show? And I started in live action. It's not like I was a stranger to live action. I started on a primetime sitcom for CBS, not after the Saved by the Bell thing. That was my first produced script, and then I wound up, my first staff job was on a sitcom, a primetime sitcom on CBS, which we can get into later because it's complicated for a lot of reasons, but I did. And I did 3 live action primetime shows before I segued into kids TV. So it's not like that wasn't in my background. And I knew the world, and she liked my writing, all of that. And I wasn't even considered for it. They wound up, it was a couple of guys who also, great, nothing against them, really smart, really strong writers, but they had had a successful show on Disney Channel. So they wanted them to develop it. And I thought, surely I'll at least write on the show because, again, I know the world. And I think it was a combination of these guys that they were making changes, which I totally recognized. I feel like the show is awesome. It's different from the books. They are 2 different worlds, 2 different realities that share a basic core, but they're different ways of telling the story. So I was not going to be the person who came in there and said, no, you have to do it just like the books. But I think probably there was a little fear of that, and also that feeling of, no, she's a kid's animation writer, as opposed to, she wrote the books, she's a writer, let's see what happens.
In some ways, too, it's you're and you're not just a writer, but you are the creator of that IP.
That specific
and so
IP,
it's like,
yes.
oh God, maybe there's some fear of, is this person just comfortable writing a script, or are they going to want to? And you have to overcome that part of it too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of ways people are pigeonholed and prejudged. And yes, I do think big picture, you can write your way out. It doesn't mean you're going to win every battle.
No. And what are some other ways that you have proved them wrong?
What's interesting, and I think unfair, is there isn't an assumption that, oh, you're a live action writer, you can't write animation. And there should be just as much of a prejudice because they are, in a way, very different animals. I do believe if you're a writer, you can write, but I do know there are some people who struggle going between those, but I think most of us, if we can tell a great story, we can tell a great story in any medium. There's might be a little learning curve. Like I once adapted a book of mine into a graphic novel, and I found that learning curve was steep. I got there, but it took a little while.
Yeah.
I really thought it would be, I'm just going to translate this. I'm literally going to take it and turn it into a script and it'll be great. And no, I really had to change the story drastically to make it work as a graphic novel, to make sure that enough could be told just in these images and not so much. A lot of the book had the motivation, you're inside the heads of these characters, spending a lot of time. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what's going on with me. If you're doing that in a graphic novel, dear God, it's going to be terribly boring.
Right.
So it was making a lot of the motivations more external and visual and letting the art do the talking and simplifying the story without dumbing it down in any way, simplifying it and just honing it so it was much clearer. But that was a learning curve. But I think there's this sense that live action is on this level and animation, especially kids animation, is on this level. And I could not disagree with that more, but I feel like that still remains the perception. So when you hear about if there's somebody who's been doing a lot of primetime TV and they want to do kids animation, there's a sense of, oh, grab that person. Really? They want to join us? Fantastic. Absolutely. Bring them. Whereas the other way, you don't get the same thing. It's, that's a kid's animation writer. Can they really do what we're doing?
Yeah. There was a good friend of mine is a music composer, and for a long time, video game music was looked down upon until
interesting.
The film and TV guys wanted to get into video game music. And then all of a sudden it was like, we can get those guys? Well, then, yeah, let's, and it's echoes what you're saying about live action writers interested in animation. It's like, oh, we can get this person who's, quote unquote, writer on some big, it's like, yeah, they're very different mediums. Yeah. If you can write, but there is a learning curve. Yeah. It's simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy. Not Correct. At all.
And to be perfectly honest, like I think the storytelling in an episode of Bluey is so much stronger than the storytelling in most live action sitcoms.
Absolutely.
Most live action shows, but certainly like take an episode of, I don't want to throw any other show under the bus, but there are plenty of shows. Bluey is great storytelling. And
yes.
It doesn't matter that it's kids animation. It is phenomenal storytelling.
And why do you think that is?
I think because the creator was allowed to go forth with their vision. I think it really, plus it came down to characters. If you look at the characters in Bluey, they are extremely well-rounded, and they are able to be themselves and quirky and flawed and messy, and that's what makes the show so great. That's what adds a level of realism.
Working across different mediums, I'm curious about what stays the same in your personal writing process.
Yeah. For me, it comes down to character. It has to come down to character.
There's that character again. Yeah.
You really need to know who these people are, what they want, and that's for any age, whether it's for preschool, whether it's for grown-ups, whether it's for YA, whether it's a novel, whether it's, I'm doing some stuff now direct to YouTube, and shorter form. And still, it comes down to character, no matter what it is. You need to understand, and you have to make the characters messy. I know when I first started out, it was really a problem for girls because you would often have one female character in an ensemble. And since that female character was representing all girls, she had to be perfect. And then she became the least interesting character there. So yes, you had the representative girl, but you didn't care because she wasn't interesting.
Yeah, you see that in a lot of shows often in an ensemble. The quote-unquote main character is the most boring. Because it has to be the straight character playing off of all the offbeat silliness of the characters around him or her.
Here's what's interesting. I wrote maybe 15 different animated Barbie movies back in the day.
Yes, you did.
And all of a sudden, one character from them, that would be Bibble, is a bit of an icon to the point where my daughter, who's 21, is constantly sending me Bibble memes. I'm like, what is happening? So I will meet people, usually in their early 20s, who really want to talk about the Barbie movies and Bibble and ask me all kinds of deep dive questions. I'm like, I would have to look at those scripts because I don't remember.
Right.
I just don't remember.
Yeah, well, how do you go about balancing an iconic character like that, but also keeping the voice fresh?
Well, okay, that character, I didn't have to worry about it because he was not iconic when I was writing him.
Okay, and you got to push a little bit, right?
I mean, we were just playing.
Interesting.
That's the thing.
Interesting.
And we had a great group, and we were just, we made a really silly, funny, ridiculous character. And I think, yes, in general, just don't be afraid to give your characters big personalities and big flaws and let them be who they are. There's a trope in novel writing where let the characters tell you where they want to go. But it's true. When I wrote my first YA novel, it was a novel called Populazzi, and I had it all outlined first. You know, there's the whole thing in writing where are you a plotter or a pantser? And some people are just...
What's a pantser?
Yeah,
I've never heard pantser.
It's fly by the seat of your pants.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah. So where you just go and see what happens and see where the plot takes you. I get nauseous if I try to be a pantser. I can't do it. And honestly, I'm the same with if I come into... You've seen me do it. When I come in to do a freelance on somebody else's show, I will have the whole thing mapped out. I don't care if it all goes away. Like, I can pitch scene 1 and let's go back to Travis. Travis or whoever's running the room can say, no, we're absolutely not doing that. I don't care. I just feel more prepared if I've made the outline. Then it can go anywhere. We could play with it. But I need that structure to start, just the idea of here's a way that it can work. Here's how it can go. So I did that with Populazzi. I had it all outlined. I knew every beat of where it would go. But as I'm writing, and it sounds so cliche and writerly and ridiculous, but the characters were telling me, I would not do that. Stop. Look at how you've created me. Look at my background. Look at what you've already set up. You really think I would make that choice? Of course I wouldn't make that choice. And so I had to pivot and adjust.
And that can only come deeper into the process, right? You're not on the beginning and the characters are talking to you. It's deeper into the story.
It's as you get to know the character. I mean, it's why even in TV shows, you do the first episode and the characters aren't as strong as when you're a couple seasons in. Like we saw it on Princess Power. The characters evolve and grow more into themselves. It doesn't mean those first episodes are bad. They just, you don't know the characters as well as you will when you spend more time with them and you see how they grow and you see different aspects of their personality. You do as much of the back work as you can in the beginning. Like it was a running joke on Princess Power that I had fan fiction novels of each of the girls because I did. I knew their whole background. I knew their life stories. And some of that, I think, if I had gone back after the show ended, those would have changed because, again, like I said, they change and adjust along the way. But you have to go in at least feeling like you know these things. Otherwise, you can't write them. Otherwise, you may as well be AI churning out a script.
Right.
Like you need to deep dive and know and understand these characters.
So that's something that's true across all the different kinds of writing that you do.
Absolutely.
Is you're outlining your prep process. Whether it's a novel, it's a show, it's a freelance, it's one episode, it's the same process.
Yeah. And I'm less concerned about outlining the plot. I mean, I have to do it. But what's more important is outlining those characters, like really knowing the characters. And then, yes, I need to outline the story just so I have a sense of where I'm going. And if it changes along the way, it changes along the way. But before I can start, I need that feeling of, here's my structure. Like those are my guardrails that make me feel good. That's sort of my life vest, my safety harness when I'm about to go zip lining. That's what that is.
If you're a plotter, and maybe too much so, you're not listening to the characters.
Yes, that's absolutely
on the other hand, I remember on there was a recent show, this was maybe 2 shows ago, but there was another really experienced writer who was coming in for a freelance, and we had a Zoom ahead of time with her just to talk about the show. Yeah. And she looked at the Bible, and she came prepared, did her homework, and her first question was, and what is this character's comic flaw? And what is this character's common flaw? Like that was what she was interested in. And so I'm just hearing you and connecting these dots of like, okay, it's character first and it's character messiness or the imperfect.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to get your comedy from, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you want to know what makes them tick. You want to know what makes them mess up. And honestly, like in general, that's why I write. That's what interests me in real life, in the world. I want to talk to people. I want to find out what makes them tick and why they make the choices they make and what are the messy things going on. I'm also fascinated about the messy things that go on in my own head.
Right.
I'm constantly looking at that.
Well, yeah, and we don't write about perfect people, right? Your novels aren't about perfect people, and that's not why we pick up books and read them and take in stories. And so why would we, but we're sometimes us or the network can be hesitant to allow those flaws to enter in the stories.
Yeah. There's a feeling of wanting to, and it could come from anywhere. It could come from the network. It could, you don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, there are those voices that want to protect the characters.
Yes.
No, we don't want the kids not to like them.
Right.
But it's not about that. The kids will like them. Kids themselves are messy. We all are messy.
Yeah, and is that tougher when you're working with existing IP, an iconic character like Barbie, where you're trying to find those flaws and
because there's certain I know at the time There was a feeling of definitely you have to protect Barbie because she's Barbie. So, but they did at the same time. Rob Hudnut was one of the execs on it. Nancy Bennett was an exec, and they both really understood character. And they understood that as much as we have to protect her, there are things that she can't do because she's Barbie. She can't be perfect. They got that. They understood that.
Now,
so that made them more fun to write.
Right. In an example like Princess Power, I'd love for you, for those who don't know, just to say what the show is, but talk about your development process in that show and just like what was your learning curve putting that together?
Yeah. What was really nice was by that point, Gabby Duran and the Unsittables had already happened and already been made into a TV show. So I had been through the process of somebody else taking my work and having it completely out of my hands, which was at first upsetting. And then I basically took a step away, like, great, this is their animal now. And I'm so excited. I am only going to cheer for it. This is wonderful. But I'm not involved with it. And in this case, in Princess Power, it's based on a book called Princesses Wear Pants by Ali Oppenheim and Savannah Guthrie. And it's really good. It's a great story. It's so empowering. And it's about this one princess named Princess Penelope Pineapple. And but in order to turn it into a TV show, we needed to, there were other characters, but there were more background characters in the two books that they had. So it's expand this world, expand on these girls, and why are we doing this show? Like for me, it was, what's the why? Why do we care about these girls? What makes them interesting? What makes them different? What makes them unique? What brings them together? So after I read it, to me, I thought the North Star for it is, and this was a sentence I would say again and again and again, princess is a verb. Princesses do things to help people. So that's the idea. These are four girls who, even though they're raised in different fruitdoms. They weren't kingdoms, they were fruitdoms. No patriarchy here. They were raised in different fruitdoms, and they had different quirks, different upbringings, different parental units and guardian units, but they all believed the same thing, that because they were princesses, they had a responsibility, and that excited them. So, and they totally leaned into the gowns and the pretty dresses and the tea parties because there's nothing wrong with that. Those are super fun. All the trappings of being a princess, they're awesome. But when somebody needed help or when there was an issue in their fruitdoms, when there was something to be done, we had what we called the Watby moment, Watby standing for whip off the bottoms. And it's this great iconic moment in the cartoon where the girls, you see all four of them in split screen and each one of them is spinning around and tearing off their gorgeous skirt to reveal a gorgeous pair of pants underneath. And then they run into action and save the day. And I wouldn't say that they're superheroes because it's not like they have superpowers and they're putting on capes. They're using their own skills and their own ingenuity to save the day and work together. And they always make mistakes. They had four really clear personalities and they would mess up. Penelope Pineapple was always really exuberant and excited and had big ideas, but she would get ahead of her skis all the time. And when she did, and when things really got too much, then it could be a little overwhelming for her. That's why she really needed her friends. Once things got out of control, it was, oh no, what have I done? I don't know that I can make it better. And she needed her friends to buck her up and say, no, of course you can. And we're going to help. We're going to make this work. You had Beatrice Blueberry, who she has a brace on one leg. And I think we only noticed that we called it out maybe in one episode.
Right.
There was a whale who had a hurt fin, and Bee was able to relate to the whale. The whale had the hurt fin and was afraid to swim, and Bee was showing off her brace, saying, yeah, I totally know what that's like, but you can do anything you want to do. And that character was actually based off my daughter has a friend, he's still a very close friend of hers, who when he was a kid, he had to wear a brace. This kid could have been in the X Games. Like nothing would stop this kid. So I loved that energy where sure, there is a different ability, but it doesn't get in her way in any way.
Right.
So yeah, she is really headstrong and she is going to jump before she doesn't give a thought to what she's going to do. She just does, which can be a problem. It can be great, but it can also be a problem. And then you've got Rita Raspberry, and she's very fashion oriented and she loves the trappings and she loves the glitz. And sometimes she's the one who could be a little more nervous to take a big risk, but she'll also see things the other girls don't. don't. And you've got Kira Kiwi, who she is the most thoughtful of the bunch, and she sees things through her own unique lens. And she's the one who will like really take the time to study everything while her friends are going crazy with all these big ideas. She will sit back and take notice and then come out with something that nobody ever would have thought of except her.
You mentioned bringing the background characters from the book forward. So talk to me about that just adapting one medium to the next, and what were you doing and what were you finding that the show was becoming as you were doing that? You mentioned the princess is a verb, which I love. When did you hit on that?
Pretty early on. Like that for me was just looking at the book. There was one book, there were two books. One's called Princesses Wear Pants, and the other one was Princesses Save the World. And in Princesses Save the World, it's Penny Pineapple comes together with all these other princesses who are called out by name, but you don't really know much about them. And they make a difference in the world together. So seeing that idea of they want to work together to make a change, that got me excited. Like, why are they wearing pants? Why are they coming together to do things? And that's what it is. Princess is a verb. I wanted to go against, of course, there's the obvious damsel in distress princess trope, which we as a society have moved away from, but we've moved so far to the other side. You get a lot of, no, I turn away from all of that. It's never okay to just lean into the glitz and fun. When the reality, I mean, you have a little girl. Playing dress up is fun.
Yes.
Wearing the little princess outfits is totally fun. Having tea parties, it's totally fun. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
Right.
And you have the ability to make the world a better place. How cool is that? And you don't have to be officially a princess to make the world a better place. The idea was, I also loved the idea with princess as a verb, princesses do things to help people. Any kid, boy or girl, who's playing princess, part of that is, let's make the world a better place. Let's do things to help people.
Right.
And that kind of, because you can empower kids at a really young age and make them feel confident and make them feel like they have agency. That's another thing I get really excited about in kids' TV. I think, again, just looking at human behavior and what makes us tick and where are all the flaws and hidden landmines in our head. You're never going to get rid of those entirely for anybody, but how can you reach kids and help them through the toughest stumbling blocks? How can you give them resilience? How can you give them strength? How can you give them motivation as they're in these really formative years to make them feel like, I can make a difference. My voice matters. I can accomplish things, regardless of where they're coming from, what their environment is. That was always something amazing growing up and watching Sesame Street. Like, whatever may have been going on around me or going on around anybody, here was this place where you were taught you could do anything. And there was a whole neighborhood of people around who wanted to give you love and support and help you accomplish whatever you wanted to accomplish. And that was empowering. So giving that to other kids out there.
Yes. And so when you are putting together like the show Bible, just to get into the nuts and bolts a little bit, naturally, are you starting with the characters?
100%. Yes. It was start with the characters. I had that North Star. Princess is a verb. Princesses do things to help people. Okay. What does that mean? What does that mean for each of these characters? And Penny was the easiest because she was the one who was really set up. Allie and Savannah did a great job setting her up in the books. The first book is all about her. I mean, she's trying everything. She's like, when I say, I will always say yes and jump into except in that improv exercise where I completely shut down. But, and jump into things. That's what Penny's doing. She wants to try to be everything and do everything. There's nothing she'll say no to. She just wants to try and play. So she was an easy character to get down right away. So then there was this whole cast of other characters who, like I said, they were called out by name, but you really didn't know anything about them. So find those characters and think, all right, we have Penny. Who would be interesting to surround her with? What kind of characters would she rub up against? Both want to lift up and have conflict with, because you want these friends, even though they love and support each other, there's going to be conflict. They're going to want different things sometimes. So you want to make sure they're coming from different places and have different personalities and different wants that might rub up against each other sometimes and get scratchy, because that's what real life is like, even with your best friend.
Do you always look for that kind of North Star of like, if you can hone it, like it's about this, or princess is a verb, some like mission statement of what the show or the project is?
I like to, yes. Sometimes that comes later.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes
a bit of discovery.
I can't quite find it and I don't stress it. That's not something I stress about at the beginning. It's let me write my way to it. Let's play. Let's see who these characters are. Let's see. Sometimes it comes right away. Like I think, and it also helped that in the case of Princess Power, Princesses Wear Pants was there.
Right.
So I could look at that and say, I get what this is. I get what the North Star is. And that was also really helpful because then I could talk to Allie and Savannah and say, your book is in good hands. Like I see the North Star of your book. I'm going to make sure that's the North Star of the TV show. So even though things are going to change, there's going to be things that are different. This is the path we're on. This is what we all believe.
Yeah.
So when I'm creating something from scratch, I don't always, sometimes I have a sense of, I want to tell a story where really what it's about is this. And other times I don't. Other times it's more, I'm thinking about a really unique character who's on an interesting journey. Who would I surround that character with? Let me dive more into that character. And as I start to figure all that out and write backstories and figure out who they are and what's going on with them, that's when the North Star becomes clear.
Right. I'm curious, starting out versus now,
yes,
how your definition of success has changed, or has it?
It definitely has changed. Of course, when I was starting out, it was that Orson Welles standard rich and famous contract. I think creatively, it's the same in that what gets me excited is world building. I always thought it would be amazing. And back when I was starting out, what world building meant was I would have my own show that would be super successful and everybody would be watching, and it's a live action primetime show that people are just wrapped in on the edge of their seats, and maybe it started as a book that I could then turn into a show so that I'm really involved in the world and it's just this universe. The world building part still matters. What is less important is that it's the thing that everybody's talking about. Would it be amazing to have the next Severance? Of course it would. Would it be just as amazing to every time I have created a show and created, like Princess Power was really, really satisfying. And it wasn't my original IP, but I really dove in and built this world and built this universe and helped. I say helped because I was working with Atomic and we all brought the team together, helped put together this team of people who were so passionate. And when I say world building, what I didn't realize when I was just starting out, world building extends to what's going on behind the scenes.
Ooh.
Yeah. When I first started out, the idea of being in power is the wrong word, but in charge, I guess. What was exciting about that was just, oh, I'm going to be in charge and it'll be my thing. And how cool is that? Now, what I really love about and what I strive for in being a showrunner, in being one of either the person or one of the people, however it works, who has a position of strength in the show to really build it. It is building that behind the scenes ensemble because it is its own world. If I have a show, I want everybody on it to feel like they have a voice, they have agency, what they say and what they think matters. And I don't care what their position is. I don't care if they're an intern on the show and this is their job. They're doing it for college credit and they're only going to be there a little while. They are an active part of the show and their voice matters. I want everybody to feel that way.
I think that's so well said. And I've never heard someone talk about world building beyond the show.
I'm only laughing because I literally babbled for 15 minutes repeating myself over and over. And you're like, that's very well said.
No, but I love that. World building extends beyond the show. I mean, it's the people building the show, putting the world together.
Yeah.
Huh. I really like that. And it goes back to that creating a community, which you alluded to with the murder parties, and also running, like we talked about in the very beginning.
Yeah.
There's a community of people, and that is very meaningful to you. It sounds like you always
Absolutely.
create a community wherever Elise Allen goes.
I try to. I mean, to me, I seek it out, and I feel like that is the greatest thing we can do for each other.
This is something I ask every guest.
Okay.
It's called the rule I break. Every industry has rules. Some are there for a reason, and some are just begging to be broken. So what's a rule in your field that you don't follow or believe in?
I don't know if it's I've never done it properly, so I don't know that it's a rule I break. I have a tendency, this might shock you, I have a tendency to be very high energy in a room and when I pitch. And there are some people who find that off-putting, and I have been told at times, it's a little much, really, calm it down. And that I definitely break, because to me, I feel like, you've just got to be yourself when you're doing this. And I, to be perfectly honest, I have lost jobs because I've come off as a little too much, a little overwhelmingly high energy in a room, and people get nervous, like, is she going to be like this the whole time? This is going to be exhausting. But I would rather it comes from a place of, I am truly excited about what I'm doing.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
You're, obviously not faking it.
Correct. And this is a lot of caffeine.
Right.
But no, I'm not faking it.
Well, and that just reminds me of going back to your previous acting aspirations. But this performer in you has, I was thinking to myself, has got to help when you're pitching. But
I would say
nothing's black and white. Exactly. Nothing is. Yeah.
And where I struggle to communicate is I'll sometimes get so excited, I get lost in what I'm talking about, and then I've lost the words entirely and I don't know where I'm going. So that happens. But yeah, I get genuinely excited about the stories I'm telling.
Before we go, I like to finish every conversation with a rapid fire round. Say as much or as little as you want.
Okay. See,
5 questions.
I will babble.
What was the last book that you read?
Oh, okay. I just finished one. It's by Tana French. I don't know if she pronounces it Tana or Tana. I think Tana. Tana French. It's called I think it's called The Hunter. I think the second one in the series is called The Hunter. She is an amazing author. She writes these crime mysteries. They take place in Ireland, but even though they're mysteries, they're not so... The plot is great, but they're not plot driven. They're character driven. So this is a new character for her. She had a whole series that was really interesting because it took place around this one crime precinct. And it started with one main character who was a police officer. And in the second book in the series, somebody who was a minor character from the first becomes a major character. Yeah. So you really, world building. Right. You get to know everybody in the world. And people who are minor characters are suddenly major characters. And you learn more about, I love, love, love that.
What's a movie you love rewatching?
The Muppet Movie.
Yes.
And I am so proud that my daughter quotes it regularly. Yeah. The other day I was out with her. It's her 21st birthday. And she's going, would you like to smell the bottle cap? Yes.
If it wasn't this, what's another career field you could see yourself in?
If it wasn't something in the creative field, maybe... I guess maybe advertising, because that's still sort of being creative and doing the same. I guess that's a cheat because I'm saying I would be writing, but in a different field.
Yeah, that's still storytelling. And
sure.
Yes. And I think you mentioned this up top. Worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Be an arrow.
Be an arrow. Pigeonhole yourself. And then to flip it, best piece of advice you've ever received?
It was from Franco E. Barrio, producer. I always refer to him by his full name because that was his credit on Saved by the Bell. He's the best. So Franco E. Barrio, producer, when I was still a production secretary I was a writer's assistant, a second writer's assistant on Saved by the Bell. And there was a job opening up on California Dreams for the head writer's assistant who would actually be in the room pitching to the writers. And he wasn't considering me because I thought he would consider me because he had already read my spec scripts, he knew who I was. I thought he would. And he didn't. And I wasn't going to get the job. He was interviewing other people. And I finally got the guts to hint that maybe this was something I wanted. And he said, don't just hint. If there's something you want, ask for it. Don't assume that people will know you want it. Don't assume that people will find you and offer it to you. Go after what you want and let them know you want it. It doesn't mean you'll get it, but go after what you want.
People that you're working with are not mind readers. And that generally people want to help you, but they need to know how.
Yeah.
They need to know how, and they're not going to spend time trying to figure you out. So at least when you have that opportunity, voice it.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
And I tell that to people all the time. Like, don't be afraid. Because I also understand the reluctance of, I don't want to bother anybody. Like, that's where I was coming from. Like, I don't want to impose on Franco. Yeah. If he really wanted me for the job, he would know that I wanted, and he'll find me. No, you have to ask. You have to let them know. Doesn't mean you have to be awful about it. You could be very just kind and say, I would love to throw my hat in the ring for this. There's nothing wrong with that. I never mind when people approach me, even just people starting out where they're networking, they're reaching out to 1 million people on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Even if there's nothing I can do for somebody, I'm never upset that they reached out.
No, I did that. I still do.
Yeah.
You know, we're all doing the same thing that we did starting out, just at a different level. And there's 100%. Always people that aren't going to get back to you. Yeah. And that's just part of it.
Absolutely.
And the world doesn't end. But when we're starting out, we think it will.
We do think
oh my gosh, I'm going to be on some list. This person bothers people.
Yes, like, this person is annoying. They'll never get another job ever.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Love that. I love that. Elise, this was such a pleasure.
This was so much fun.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Just leading up to this, I was like, I'm so excited to talk to you. And this is just so fascinating. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. This was great.
Hey, before you go, thank you for listening. If something in this episode moved you or even made you pause for a second, please consider following the show, leaving a review, and signing up for the weekly newsletter at storyseriespodcast.com. That's where I share my personal takeaways from each episode, what stuck with me and why, one story at a time. See you in the next one.